Hello and welcome back to the Daily Calm with Pastor Tom. Today we're looking at Matthew 18, the parable of the unmerciful servant. Do you remember this story? We're trying to still think about, I need help. Okay, Lord, I need your forgiveness. And Jesus tells a remarkable parable, the unmerciful servant. If you don't remember it, the king settles accounts with his servants. He calls in one servant who owes the king an incredible amount. In modern day terms, it would have been about $8 billion. That's billion with a B. And of course, there's no way anyone could repay this amount of money. And yet he pleads with the king, just a little while longer. I'll get it to you. Yeah, right. 8 billion. Was this guy embezzling? Did he have a gambling problem? How did he get so far in debt to the king? $8 billion. Well, at any rate, the king does a most surprising thing. He forgives it. Forgives it all. You're free to go. This should have been the best day of this guy's life. Instead, what does he do? He walks out and immediately goes and finds a fellow servant who owes him a much smaller amount in comparison. In modern day terms, about $13,000, and shakes him down, demands, you pay me what I owe. The guy says, give me a little while, I'll pay you. No, throws him in debtor's prison, demanding he pay that $13,000 back, and throws him in the prison. Well, when the king hears about this, you can imagine the results. The king does exactly what we would expect him to do. He is not kind to this person who showed no mercy. He was forgiven $8 billion and couldn't show any mercy to his fellow servant who owed him much less in comparison. Jesus, of course, tells this parable so that his disciples can be reminded. This is how God looks at the world, right? He's forgiven us so much. Who are we then to go and refuse forgiveness to others? As I'm thinking about this parable, I'm thinking literally about what's in this guy's head. I mean, how do you get to the point where you've been forgiven $8 billion in debt and you go shake down this fellow servant for a relatively small amount? And why is it to apply it to us? Why we who've been forgiven so much, why can't we then go and forgive others? I think it comes down to two things. Number one, I don't think the servant ever really realized his situation. I think he was delusional. I don't think he realized just how in debt he was and just how unable to ever pay it back. $8 billion, and what does the guy say? I'll get it back to you. I just need a little more time. I can do this. You're kidding. You're delusional. I think many of us don't realize how much we've been forgiven by God. We think, I can make it up to God. Okay, I've made a few mistakes. I've done wrong. We're delusional. And we'll always withhold forgiveness to others until we realize the great debt that's been paid on our behalf, the great debt we've been forgiven. But there's a second thing. Number one, I think he's delusional about how deep in debt he really is. Number two, I think he never really understood that the king set him completely free. In the back of his mind, he's thinking, I don't want to be the king's charity case. I don't want, no. I can do it. I can pay back. Now you can't, you're delusional, but he thinks he can. And then it occurs to him. In fact, I know a guy who owes me $13,000. That's a good start. That's a drop in the bucket. Even if you could pay it back, it's never going to happen. But deep down, he thinks he can still earn it. He can still pay it back. And because he refuses to make a modern application, because he refuses to live by the king's grace, he just can't seem to give grace to others. And that's my prayer for us today in this daily calm. God, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who are indebted to us. Those two things go hand in hand. God, make us daily aware of how much you've forgiven us so that we can live in your grace and pour out grace upon others.